parents are dead long ago.
You have no family?
Ralph.
But I'm sorry.
CBS and NBC, buried in mediocrity. ABC and CBS, controlling interest in the media mess. TV guy, bug-eyed monster with a video eye, selling me junk that I never want to buy. Won't you show me what I ought to see? How you suck me, how you fuck me till I can't be free. TV guy, 1,000 glassy smiles for 1 billion nightly viewers, selling dollar garbage in the media sewers. Sell England in America, America in France, sell you back your ass in a fancy pair of pants. Won't you tell me what to do? I spend my money for you. TV guide, network to network all around the world. Modern electronic images are hurled, televised messages shoot into your brain. Air-to-surface missiles driving you insane. TV guide, won't you guide me, won't you tell me what to think? My mind is a sink. TV guide, pull the plug and watch the lights go out. Kick in the screen as you jump and shout. TV,
when you finally see it, it's really something. It's unbelievable, it's me.
Introducing the Brooke Shields doll.
Pull the plug.
The little girl who loves playing with this doll.
Pull the plug.
Nobody understands. Oh, come on, George. You have a lovely home, a successful business. Big deal. What are they going to say about me in the history books? Did I cure disease? Nope. Did I walk on the moon? Nope. I'm just plain old George Jefferson, cleaning and pressing, alterations extra.
Okay. Good evening. I'm going to talk about reading the TV guide. There's a problem about that, really, because it's not easily considered as a read. I mean, not in the sense that the New York magazine or People is a read, much less The Nation, say, or commentary. Actually, it's really a bit like commentary. I mean, I don't know whether you recall last year, but TV Guide were running pro-family advertisements like this in the local paper of record, and in America's endangered species. The connection between the endangerment of that species and the television is not made apparent in the copy. TV Guide is not primarily a read because it's a list. Maybe one should qualify that by saying it's possible to write a book of lists in our culture and make it into a bestseller, but TV Guide is essentially a list. It's really rather like reading the telephone book. The list is a guide to the television of abundance. In fact, TV Guide's most important ideological function, if you like, is that it actually pretends that there's a television of abundance. American television is extremely confusing to foreigners such as myself. We think it's all different, and it's only after you've been here a couple of decades that you actually realize that almost all the time it's simply repeating itself. I mean, in this town, the broadcast stations, 3 of them, are in essence repeat stations. And then there's PBS, which unfortunately doesn't have enough money to repeat either its own productions or productions it brings from my native land, Britain. And then there are the 3 networks themselves. Well, during the daytime and in the middle of the night, they're either repeating or they're using program production codes like the soaps, which are so slow in the way they consume material and the like, that it's possible to see them as repeats too. And then there's prime time, 70 shows or so a week. They manage to be more or less new ones. Fresh is perhaps too strong a word to use in the connection with the primetime network schedule. Then more or less new shows for only 3 seasons of the year. And on the basis of this profligate amount of production, we now have a whole profligate number of extra channels, including the one I'm talking to you on now. The extra channels that you pay for, the pay services, have discovered an extremely jolly wheeze, which is that it is possible to actually, for instance, show Superman, as they did last year, 53 times, 3 of the channels. The networks have never quite cottoned on to that. So TV Guide's first function is to bolster the notion of abundance. It's in the nature of the case that every week it sort of pretends it's all different. But in fact, every week it is, as you know if you look at television regularly, largely the same. Now, there's been an interesting problem that the publishers of TV Guide have to face. The problem that they have to face is that there is a proliferation of channels. TV Guide was already difficult enough to read when it was only 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9, 11, 13, 21, 25, 31, 41, 47, 49, 50. Now, you'll notice in the last few weeks, they've started to run a significant number of the pay services down the bottom of their primetime table. This is an interesting indication of where their heads are at. They run Arts, the Alpha Repertory television service brought to you by ABC for a couple of hours every night. They run Bravo, a cultural service brought to you by Rainbow Programming Services out on Long Island. CBS, which in this connection means CBS Cable, another cultural service, and then ESN, and then HBO, and various other movie channels, and the superstation WTBS from Atlanta, and so on. There's an interesting omission from this list. It is, in fact, that Bravo's partner in crime, as it were, is a softcore porno channel called Escapade, which is run in conjunction with Playboy. The interesting thing about Escapade is that it shares a transponder 22,300 miles above us with the National Christian Network, which doesn't broadcast at night. I assume that up in the heavens all is cleansed, but what's equally interesting about this is that poor old Escapade watchers still have to guess. The TV Guide does not list those movies. Now, let me say that I have always found TV Guide extremely difficult to read, and I suspect that the addition of the primetime box is a sort of acknowledgement of that difficulty. It is astonishingly easy to miss things. I mean, they do us the courtesy, which I think is the most valuable thing in it, of listing the week's movies right at the front and special events of one sort or another. But basically there is an endless problem about actually finding your way about, knowing what's on at any given point, unless I suppose you're an American. I can only assume that since this is the best-selling magazine in the country, most people don't have my difficulties with it. There's a further level of immediate editorial comment apparent in TV Guide. Let me see whether I can find you one. Here's one. Where they give you boxes. They actually highlight the most important of the. Whoops, we've got the wrong thing. I think. Whoops, there we go. Can you see the sports box on that side? They highlight the sports boxes and other things like that. I often think that this must be the most difficult editorial decisions that they have to make on a week-to-week basis. I mean, in the current edition, last night, for instance, they decided to box Lonnie Anderson and Arnold Schwarzenegger. Arnold Schwarzenegger is to acting what Robert Mackenzie, the TV Guide's TV critic, is to television criticism. They decided to box this rerun rather than say one of the programs that was playing against it, American Playhouse. American Playhouse being, I think, an extremely significant series. It's an attempt by PBS to get out of the clutches of the Brits and do some programming themselves. This was, last night's was called Private Contentment, and it was written by the Southern novelist Reynold Price. Fortunately, it was directed by a British director, not even a television one, Vivian Matalon, primarily known for his theatre work. But nevertheless, it's interesting when you're faced with the problem of what to box, that you should choose to box the rerun of a pretty run-of-the-mill film star biog made-for-television movie, rather than box something more significant like American Playhouse. But most of the time, of course, there isn't enough stuff on television to box any of it, really. The next thing that is important editorially is their covers. Now, their covers come in two sorts. There are covers like this. I'm going to do a lot of covers, so if I could have this camera, the cover camera over here, that would be nice. That's right. Whoops, where are we? There are covers like this, you know, which says, a noted historian judges TV Holocaust films, or this one, which was last week's, the current one that you're all probably reading now, Golda Meir, or a few weeks ago, President Reagan on, what does it say, talks about leaks, boycott, and media bias, right? Those are sort of tangential to the actual substance of television programs, but most of the boxes, most of the covers, I should say, 2 to 1, are really covers of stars. This week we've got the stars of the Dukes of Hazzard. We've had the stars of the cast of Chips, right? And the cast of Love Sydney, and the cast of Three's Company, and the cast of Happy Days, and the cast of Tom Brokaw, right? And you know, there's a sense in which Television Guide covers reflect its somewhat schizophrenic and dual nature, where on the one hand it needs to bolster the television industry that it feeds off of, but on the other hand feels the need to endlessly criticize it. There's a sort of schizophrenia built in to TV Guide's coverage, which is the most interesting thing about it. I shall be looking at the contents, if I may so distinguish them, of TV Guide after we take a small break. In order to take that break, I have to now give a 10-second cue to a videotape machine so that we can hopefully, when I stop talking, cut up the picture that we're supposed to be seeing next, now. All right, not quite now. Is it all right? Dee Dee, am I wandering too much off camera? This is very difficult, Dee Dee.
I got the horse right here, the name is Paul Revere, and here's a guy that says if the weather's clear, can do, this guy says the horse can do, if he says the horse can do, can do.
Yes, good fun.
I think it's Valentine, 'cause on the morning line, the guy's got him figured at 5 to 9. But
Have I got more? Or
he wins it by a half.
Can you
According
give me
to this here in the telegram.
For Paul Revere I'll fight, I hear his foot's all right. Of this it all depends if it's red last night.
I know it's Valentine, the morning works look fine. You know the jockey's brother's a friend of mine.
And just a minute, boys, I got the feed box
noise. It says the great-grandfather was equipoised.
I chose Paul Revere. Now this is no bump steer. It's from a handicapper that's real sincere.
I'm picking Valentine, cause on the morning line, the guy's got him figured at 5 to 9. So make it FS10. He went to buy
I might find
to this
some...
here in the telegraph. Epitaph. Paul Revere, I got the horse right here.
Hello?
Dr. Kramer? Our friend is going after Coleman.
I'll handle it from here.
Are you sure?
Don't worry. I don't believe it. I don't know what to say. When you finally see it, it's really something. It's unbelievable. It's me.
Introducing the Brooke Shields doll.
Wow. Your little girl will love playing with this doll.
Yeah, it would be nice.
Nobody understands. Oh, come on, George. You have a lovely home, a successful business. Big deal. What are they going to say about me in the history books? Did I cure disease? Nope. Did I walk on the moon? Nope. I'm just plain old George Jefferson, cleaning and pressing, alterations extra.
Radio Television News Directors Association has picked WCBS as the best radio news station in America. It's their equivalent of a Tony, an Emmy, an Oscar. Stay tuned for today's FBI, next on ABC. Exercise Experts, tomorrow morning at 9. Incredible, will not be...
Okay, be that as it may, let's now look at the contents, the glossy pages, apart from the listing at either end. It's a very nice TV guide because it's actually about 200 pages long, but the last page only says 56. That I find strangely comforting. Inside, you can see a constant repetition of a strand of strands of articles. Now, and they contradict each other. Number of the strands are in direct contradiction to other strands. For instance, this is one of the most important strands. It's the lead article this week, and it's about, as you can see, Hollywood studios flim-flam their stars. TV Guide is obsessed with the money in around television. It actually, that's one of its primary views about the industry. Any industry this rich can't be bad. And the piece, this piece is very typical. The figures hit you. You know, Fess Parker is suing for $48 million. And then it mentions the sums of money made by shows. Daniel Boone, Fess Parker's show, made $40 million. Rockford Files made $52 million. Unfortunately, even in 2,000 words, there isn't quite enough to sustain the thesis of these poor stars all getting ripped off by the studios, although I'm pretty sure that happens. So they have to mention, you know, film directors and film people getting ripped off, which is a slightly different subject. They mention Sir Richard Attenborough suing Joe Levine for $200,000 of lost revenue as his take from A Bridge Too Far. Any sum of money anywhere is of prime interest to TV Guide, and I assume to their readership. That's the first strand, the wonderment at television's richness. Then there's another strand, which is illustrated by the current edition for next week's programs. This one's about 24-hour cable watching, cable services that go for 24 hours. This is the technology wonder strand. This is the strand that constantly argues that the technology is overwhelmingly terrific. They have an occasional series in which they talk always about the new wonders. They don't offer any criticism at all as to what the effect of all this might or might not be on us. This piece says, why have the broadcast networks waited so long to bring in all-night programming rather than doing their repeats? Well, the broadcast networks are caught with an assumption, which is probably correct, that we the audience, expect programs to look a certain way. Translated into dollars, that means they have to cost $600,000 an hour approximately to produce. Prime time costs $600,000 an hour. The broadcasters were never clever enough to catch on to what the owners of this cable network caught on to, which is simply that you could repeat Superman 53 times and get away with it as convenience. But it's significant that that sort of answer and that sort of argument is not included in the technology wonder strand. The last and most important part of the uncritical function is illustrated by articles about the stars. TV Guide performs exactly the function of the same as the old fan magazines in Hollywood. This is a piece about a soap opera star, young soap opera star, Lori Loughlin. And as you can say, it says, it's got a very nice heading, it says, no nudity, no abortion scenes, no Lolita roles. Soap actress Lori Loughlin, 17, may grump and sigh, but she always listens to her mother. There are always a number of such pieces in every edition. This week, the second piece about the stars, actually, is something of a breakthrough. It's a laudatory piece about the car in the Dukes of Hazzard. How about that? I don't think you could carry the sort of idolatrous quality of the whole fan syndrome further than that. Now, these three are the main if you like, television strands. They dominate. But there are also other strands, which is best illustrated by the notion of TV Guide being the heir to 2 centuries of middle-class disapprobation about working-class popular activities. You know, the novels rotted the minds of the poor, the popular papers rotted their minds, the cinema, the radio, comic books, and now television. So TV Guide feeds that. It runs pieces which actually speak to the horrendous and terrifying effect of television on our culture. However, the voice of these strands is somewhat muted. For instance, they run a series from 2 well-known psychologists about the effect on children of television. I gave up reading the series when they suggested that Sesame Street was terrible and that Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood was fine. I hate Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. I hate people who come into a house and take their shoes off for fear of ruining the carpets. This naked embourgeoisement affecting the young of the nation must stop, in my view. However, but they run pieces like that. They tend to run pieces of positivist sociology, you know, which emanate from significantly the Annenberg School of Communications at Temple University and other places, arguing that, you know, every American watches 3,247.25 murders every year, and that sort of thing. They run these pieces, as I say, fairly uncritically. But the really interesting thing about them is that they don't run them so uncritically. They don't bolster them to the point where they actually have any cutting edge, where they actually affect the entire dominant strands of the magazine, the fan stuff and the money stuff and the technology stuff. You know, for instance, they're very disapproving of and run as major feature stories about people taking cocaine in Hollywood and stuff like that. They have the whole bundle of disapproval, but they don't carry it anywhere. The best place to see that is really in the way they deal with the most vexed issue, in many ways, of television coverage, which is the way in which television deals with the real world. There are a constant stream of articles. This one is this week's example. It's about the news, and it's a memoir, a little memoir written by a CBS newsman, veteran cameraman, on the occasion of his retirement, or he retired last year anyway. Now, the pieces they run about the news, like the Reagan interview and things of that sort, are really the pieces that best illustrate the point of disequilibrium on which the TV Guide balances its enormous sales. They're worried, but they're not so worried as to offer anybody a really meaningful alternative, a really meaningful critique of what television actually is about. It's as if they can't bite the golden goose's egg. This is, again, perhaps not just illustrated in the way they cover the news, but and news-related issues, documentary issues, but also the way in which they deal with books about television. They're very snide about any serious attempt to offer a critique of television. They dismiss it as egghead nonsense and so on. But they're fairly uncritical about the content of television and books about the content of television, which of course means that their man, Robert Mackenzie, the chap who is the Arnold Schwarzenegger of television critics, I mean, only has to deal with comprehension. You know, he weakly displays that he understood the program, and he doesn't go beyond it. And in that sense, the magazine doesn't go beyond it either. So this is the point. TV Guide bolsters the television industry, but at the same time, in a rather curious way, reserves the right to be critical of it. This contradiction is the thing that most impresses one if one reads it regularly. However, let me say that there appears to be a rule about American television, and the rule is nothing connected with it is so bad that it can't get worse. And the new cable services, those of you that are watching me on this channel now, the new cable services provide their own little TV guide. It's called OnCable. It's full of admonishments not to rip off the cable company and so on. It makes the TV guide look rather good. Good night.
ABC and CBS, controlling interest in the media mess. TV Guide, bug-eyed monster with a video eye, selling me junk that I never want to buy. Won't you show me what I ought to see? How you suck me, how you fuck me till I can't be free. TV Guide, 1,000 glassy smiles for 1 billion nightly viewers, selling dollar garbage in the media sewers. Sell England in America, America in France, sell you back your ass in a fancy pair of pants. Won't you tell me what to do? I spend my money for you. TV Guide, network to network all around the world. Modern electronic images are hurled, televised messages shoot into your brain. They're the surface missiles driving you insane. TV Guide, won't you guide me, won't you tell me what to think? My mind is a sing. TV Guide, pull the plug and watch the lights go out. Kick in the screen as you jump and shout. TV Guide, open it up and there's nothing inside. Pull the plug, 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 pull the